I never really was trying to sell Reservoir Dogs because at some point I had finally been able to sell True Romance for like the lowest amount of money they could legally pay me. But I could have actually made Reservoir Dogs in 16 millimeter with $30,000, so I kind of could make my movie. So I didn't have to fuck it up. I didn't have to compromise in any way. I mean, if you want to give me $1 million to make my movie, well then all great, but it's got to be the same movie because I can make this for $30,000 on 16, and you won't be in a warehouse. It'll be in a garage, but that'll all be good. All right. It won't star Harvey Keitel, all right, but it'll all be good. I'll be a filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker now. Harvey Keitel is the one that kind of like gave me and Lawrence legitimacy, and how it happened. It was, it's like, if Harvey had said yes to the movie and wanted to do it, I think we would have eventually got it made, but it would have been like the normal route of like taking a long time. Harvey has always been one of my favorite actors in the world, and like literally in a wish list. All right, of like whoever I could have be Mr. White, Harvey Keitel was always like number one on the list. So we were trying to get it to him, even though we had no legitimacy, no money, no nothing. Okay, just a script. Lawrence Bender was going to an acting class, and just anyone out there, this is kind of how it can work. All right, and it's like for as many things that can go bad, things can go good. Just like that line in True Romance. Things bad things happen. Well, that's the way it goes. But don't forget, it can go the other way too. Pendulum swings both ways. It might not seem like it sometimes, but eventually it will. And this is a guy talking pretty much through most of my 20s. Had nothing but bad luck at all. My joke used to be from 19 to 28. All right, was 27 or something like that. Was if you wanted to send a letter to me, you could write it. Quentin Tarantino on the outskirts of the film industry. If you'd have sent it there, I'd have got it, because that's right where I was. All right, that's where I lived. Lawrence Bender was going to this one acting class, and his teacher was married to an actress named Lily Parker, who was a member of the Actors Studio in New York, who knew Harvey. Lawrence got it to his acting teacher in Los Angeles. His teacher read it and liked it. Then sent it to New York to his wife, Lily Parker, who I don't know, Lawrence doesn't know. He knew her husband. Lily Parker read it and liked it and gave it to Harvey Keitel. So we're really liking Lily. 3 days later, Harvey Keitel called up Lawrence Bender. And we got on the phone with him, and he goes, yes, well, Quentin, I would love to do this movie. I think it's fantastic. And the script is it's quite amazing. And the dialogue, and just wonderful writer. So, but I want to be involved in it. I would like to be one of the producers on it and help you get in. You're the boss, but, I think we can maybe help you get it made, At that time, Harvey Keitel saying he's going to be the star of your movie. It's not like all of a sudden doors flew open or anything like that. But he gave us legitimacy. We had no legitimacy. We were just a couple of guys out there trying to get a movie made like millions of other guys in Hollywood. The reality is, Richard Gladstein at Live, who is really the guy that put me in the position to make a movie. Now, Richard had the meeting with Lawrence and with Monty, not yet with me. So I was like the last guy for him to meet. So he was so gung-ho, and I'd heard he was so gung-ho, so it was kind of all mine to screw up almost. All right? And I had done a movie called My Best Friend's Birthday that it was never finished, and I just had like little clips of it, and I had bad experience showing it and everything, So literally he was like, and she goes, so you've done a movie before? Well, I never finished it. And he goes, can I see some footage from it? No. And he's the reason, that waiting for that one yes that will make you a director when you have absolutely nothing to show for. All right? He was the one that said yes. All right? He wouldn't have even read the script if Harvey hadn't been attached. He'd just always been a fan of Harvey's. And it could be really cool to make a movie with Harvey Keitel. Yes, I think I'll take that home tonight, as opposed to letting his reader read it, which he probably would have passed on it. All right? And he read it and loved it. And then that was the beginning of my life, basically, part 2. there's no super method of like, oh, this is my style and this is what I'm trying to do or anything like that. But it's just a mixture of, I guess, I'm always like a slight hesitant to try to explain certain things I do, because in doing that, not because I'm afraid of revealing stuff, but in trying to articulate it, I'm almost putting more of an onus on it than I really am at the time. You know what I mean? And I don't want to make it sound like it's really super thought out. But it is a kind of a combination of the fact that it's like, I mean, look, dialogue is the easiest thing in the world for me. I think my dialogue's pretty good, and because it comes so easy that it's almost, I almost feel like it's not really mine, almost, all right? It's like, if there is such a thing as a God's gift or anything, that's one of the gifts he gave me. And part of the thing in doing it is just getting characters to talk to each other. It's just like, I just get them talking to each other, and they're off. The characters are writing it. I'm like a stenographer. I'm like a court reporter. All right, I'm just, no, actually I don't type it, I write. All right, but I'm just writing it down. Taking genre characters and genre situations, all right, and giving them a real life spin. Have them sound like real people, like, you know, me and my friends and just other people, and make references that other people make, that movie characters don't necessarily make, all right? And talk about shit other than the plot, all right? You know, most of us don't talk about the plot in our lives, all right? We talk all around things, and we talk about bullshit, and we talk about things that interest us. Gangsters don't just talk about gangster plot related stuff and just polish their bullets, all right? And talk about this murder or that murder. They talk about songs on the radio, they talk about, you know, the chicken dinner they had last night, or they're having this moment and this girl, and then, well, sometimes in gangster movies they'll have them talk about a girl, but that's about it. They don't talk about just stuff. And people are people. In the course of that, one, it's funny. Two, it can be entertaining. Three, it's like kind of likable in a strange way, all right? It makes them seem human, all right? And it's also authentic. Rappers and cops and gangsters and real gangsters, you know, real criminals or gangbangers and everything said, no, man, Reservoir Dogs is it. That is it. There's no like melodrama attached to the scenes when they talk. They talk like real people. They talk about the shit that we talk about. All right. And then like the most outrageous stuff is the stuff that rings the most true. That's something I've learned from life. And I also kind of learned from, you know, Omar Leonard in his books would always show all these constant little monkey wrenches that just smacked true of life. Cops are chasing after characters running down the street. Okay, they commandeer a car, throw the person out, jump in the car, but it's a stick shift and they don't drive a stick. All right, that's real life. And it kind of fucks up the genre moment. All right, kind of fucks up the speediness of the film. All right, well, that's what I'm always trying to do. The thing is, it's like, you know, the movie's really funny. I'm hearing laughs when I'm making my movie. That doesn't mean that it's like a comedy and everything is nothing serious and everything is just one big fucking joke. All right. You know, I think Pulp Fiction should be in the comedy section of a video store. All right. Reservoir Dogs should be in the comedy section. But I pride myself that if you tape an audience watching Reservoir Dogs, just tape the audience, that you would swear you were listening to an audience watching a comedy. My shit can cut your head off, but it's funnier at the same time than any other comedy playing in the theaters right now. But, you know, and I'm totally not the only guy to do that. Taxi Driver, one of the most intense movies ever made, is absolutely fucking hysterical. I mean, just hysterical. If you were to tape an audience watching it, you would swear you're watching an audience watching a comedy. Carrie is hysterical. Jaws, for that matter. All right, again, people howl all through Jaws until you stop howling. I love fucking with an audience. I mean, I love taking them on a ride. And they're not just watching a movie where images are glazing over them. I'm fucking with them. I'm giving them experience. They may appreciate the experience. They may not appreciate the experience. They're getting their $8 worth, or their $9 worth, or $11 worth, whatever the fuck it cost. All right, you know, they went to the motherfucking movies that night. All right, they had an experience. Now, she might not like it, and he might like it, and he might not like it, and she might like it. Oddly enough, it was kind of cool. Some of the strongest defenders of Reservoir Dogs were women, the women who got it. The women who got it would defend it against all comers. Women could get, like, ugly, all right, you know, like, no, you don't understand. They were always like my strongest defender. I mean, the women that got it would take on all comers. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. I remember, I couldn't have been happier with my cast, and then we all had a dinner at Harvey Keitel's house after everyone got cast, a little cast dinner. And it was the entire cast, nobody really knew each other before this time. It was the whole cast and Lawrence, and me and Lawrence. And so we're all like having dinner and getting to know each other and talking and everything. And I'm just sitting at this table, looking at everybody. And like Harvey, when he was in town, he'd always rented a house in Malibu, all right, on the beach. And I'm just looking around at all these terrific actors and all these great guys, and I really didn't want it to be some, Scorsese want to be Goodfellas, Italian Goomba shit, all right? And because these guys are not Goodfellas style gangsters. These guys are professional robbers. That's what they do. They're much closer in spirit to the Richard Stark character of Parker. All right, guys, that's what they do for a living, and they're not all Italian, all come from fucking New York. All right, this guy's from Kansas and this guy's from this. I wanted them all have different, energies and stuff and different, personalities. And they all had to work together as an ensemble. If Mr. Buscemi never met Mrs. Buscemi and little Steve was never born, then maybe 3 other actors might not be in the movie either. You know what I mean? You can say, we'll cast John Malkovich to play this role, and Dennis Hopper to play this role, and Judd Nelson to play this role, and Kevin Bacon to play this role, and won't it be great? All right? Well, maybe it will be great, but maybe it won't be. Not because all those guys aren't good, but because maybe it's not just like the right fit. They're not right fit of energies and personalities. All right? And by the way, everybody in Reservoir Dogs had a completely different acting style. All right? Completely different method of working. Sitting at that table, I just realized, shit. If I keep this movie in focus, I've got a terrific movie. If I don't have a single solitary idea of how to shoot a given scene, which is shit you think about when you've never made a movie before. If I just shoot it like boring old television, it'll be dynamic. Because these guys are so great. I could put these fuckers in a white shirt up against a white wall, and I got a movie. I remember that night, Harvey lived, like I said, way the fuck out in Malibu and PCH, and I lived like in Glendale, all right? And I remember taking Sunset the long way around, Sunset from Malibu to Glendale. And I was a little drunk, all right, because we were drinking, not like smashed, but just drinking wine, something like that. All right, in a little wonderful wine world, all right? Not ridiculously dangerous, but like, just a little buzzed. And I wanted that long drive because I was maybe the happiest I'd ever been in my life. I had just had dinner with my actors for my movie, and I just knew it was just going to be great. And I just took this long drive and just thought about how great life was. Just at that moment, it just couldn't have been better. I was living my dream, and my dream was going to be great.
This is the sign that was hanging over our entrance to our offices, which are up on Hollywood Boulevard. Our offices cost us $500 a month, and I think that building actually tore it down. It's a museum piece now. I think the frame costs more than the whole budget of the movie. This is our first company that Quentin and I had for Reservoir Dogs. I made a little horror movie for $100,000 with a guy named Scott Spiegel. It was a great little, it all took place in a grocery store. And Scott Spiegel is the guy who introduced Quentin and I. Quentin and I are like a married couple, we've been together a long time, and it's truly a case where 1 + 1 = more than 2. And we are moving along there, and both of us are struggling on our own. And somehow together we were able to do what each of us individually were not able to do. Sometimes we fight like a married couple. When Quentin wrote this script, he literally wrote it in 3.5 weeks. I'll never forget going over to his house, and he has this old typewriter, and he's started pecking away at it. It was pretty funny because it was all those bad spelling, and it was not, it doesn't look like a script because it's not formatted, quote unquote, the way a script is supposed to be formatted. When he sort of pitched me the idea in my living room, he was telling me the story. He said, I just want to write this story. And it's about a bunch of guys. They pull a jewelry heist. They come back. At that point, it was a garage. They come back to a garage. Someone's been shot. Someone's been killed. There's an undercover cop in the mix. You don't know who it is. As he was telling me the story, I just knew we were off and running into something really great. That casting process was probably the best casting process I'll ever go through. We had so many groups of actors, so many great actors actually that came in. And it was really about putting together the right ensemble, the right group, the right chemistry. When that process was nearing its end out here, Harvey said, we should go to New York and check out the New York actors. Well, Quentin and I were broke. Quentin at that time didn't have a car. I'd pick him up, and or he'd take the bus, and I had, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate, and I didn't have money to go to New York. And so Harvey said, I'll tell you what, I'll fly you guys to New York. There'd be times when it'd be Quentin and me and Harvey in the room with an actor, and we would read 2 or 3 roles with each actor, be in the room for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and for whatever reason, I got to be the cop sitting in the chair. And guys would bring in knives, and guys would bring in guns. A guy would go, here, gun, but see, look, it's not loaded. He said, sorry, no guns. He said, no, but look, it's not loaded. And we would get in, guys would get into, the whole physical thing, and I get knocked over, and it was this it was like walking into a locker room. It was great, and see, that's where we cast Steve Buscemi. And actually Steve came in and gave an okay audition, not a bad audition, but not a great audition, but there's something about his energy. We go, this is the guy. And then later that night, Harvey took us out to the Russian tea room. Now, I'm from New York, but I was always broke. I never could afford to go into the Russian tea room. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the Russian tea room with Harvey and Quentin. And at that point, I said to Harvey, look, Harvey, you've done so much. I think we should make you a co-producer in the movie. He said, Lawrence, what took you so long? Hey, I've been waiting for you to say this. It's about time. I'll never forget, because we cast all day on Friday, and we took the red eye Friday night. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. We meet. Harvey's in first class, we're in coach. We meet in the middle, and Harvey goes, boys, someday you'll be in first class. But right now, when it's on my dime, I'm in first, you're in coach. I will never forget the first day. We always like to have a dinner. It's become a sort of a thing now, but we started on Reservoir Dogs. We like to have a dinner with all the actors before we shoot. And we were all sitting around there, and it was me and Richard Gladstein, and I think Monty Hellman was there, but all the actors, Eddie and Michael Madsen and Chris Penn and Quentin and Buscemi and all these guys. And we were at Harvey's house, and people started talking about prison time. Everybody there had been in jail at one point or another. And Richard Gladstein and I looked at each other and go, this is it. This is the movie. We're in the movie. It's great. Doing Reservoir Dogs, we were doing everything for the first time. But somehow we were whatever we had done to that point in each of our lives to get to that point, we had all that potential energy that was waiting to get transferred into kinetic energy. It was just ready to go. And all my background came to play, all his background came to play, and we did everything we could to just make that a great movie. But that's what everybody does. Everybody sets out to make a great movie. But that was our first movie, so it's a very special movie. It's like having your first child or something like that,
Mr. Blonde is talked about before you see him, and you go, oh man, there he is. Oh shit, he's here. It's not like I have to come in and start with any shenanigans. I just walk in, and I'm the guy that everyone's been talking about. And I think that's part of the setup for some interesting characters. I mean, obviously. There was a theater in Los Angeles that played, you know, every Saturday night at midnight. I went there once with Quentin and with Lawrence Tierney, and we sat in the back row and we watched the movie. And all the people that were in the theater, they knew all the dialogue, and they were speaking along with the characters and saying the dialogue, you know, like simultaneously with the guys in the movies. They knew some of the lines, you know, why do I have to be Mr. Pink, you know, and stuff like that, and you know, I'm going to torture you anyway, and you know, things like that. These standout kind of memory things, and I knew that the movie was good. I've always thought that it was, but I had never seen it with an audience before, and so it was kind of strange. It was kind of cool to see it that way. The guy from Reservoir Dogs will be on my tombstone. They won't even put my name, unless I'm buried in England somewhere. Then they would probably remember. They're really good to me over there. And I walk down the street, you know, like, fucking hell, it's Mr. Blonde. They really like me over there. You'd think Reservoir Dogs just came out yesterday. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is that, hey, Hud, say again? Is that yours? Well, son, there's about 350 million toys in this house, and I have to be honest with you, I really, really couldn't tell you. If you say so, I'll back you up. That's Hud's. It's his. You have to back your sons up. You have to back your children up, because one day I'll be old and I'll need those boys to look after me. And I hope maybe one of them ends up liking me. Maybe that's why I've had so many. Maybe he'll remember that this day I told everyone that that toy was his, when it probably isn't. So they plot against each other. It's incredible. You know, anyway, what was I talking about? I would have much rather have not been my demise. In fact, I think I probably tried to talk Quentin out of it. I think that's why I elongated my death scene so long. You know, because bang, 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 bang. And I wanted to bang against some caskets and knock them over and stuff. I remember that I think we were going to try to shoot it that way, and then we were really running out of time. We didn't have any time to do that movie. Much less time than one would imagine. I remember a little reluctance on his part to let me be halfway up on the garbage can and then to fall down. Anyway, I tried to elongate my demise scene by having that final moment where he goes, boom. I would have made it go on forever if I could have, you know. But you never know. Maybe they could, you know, in the sequel, I could be in the emergency room. Of course, Mr. Orange at that point would be dead, and he'd be gone. But I'd survive in the emergency room in the air, because I didn't lose nearly that much blood. I'm sitting here looking at this book, and not only did I not know there was a book, but why is Tim on the cover? If you ask Tim, I think he's pretty sure that the movie is about Mr. Orange. He thinks it's about his character. Tim, you know, you're my dear friend, but it's not about Mr. Orange. So I developed this thing for birds, I don't know. And then we got a great big cockatoo. We had him for a long time. His name is Marlin. He's from Nebraska. He's a Cornhusker. We named him Marlin after Marlon Brando, because Marlin's from Nebraska, you know, it's one of those things. An actor with a bird named Marlin, you know. It's kind of stupid, but kind of charming, actually. Yeah, he's a good bird, though. He's very tame. With me, he is. I can take him out and hold him like a baby and turn him upside down and everything. He's really cool, but he won't let anyone else do it. He'll attack them.
No,
He's an attack bird. Get him, Marlin. I was like the guy who never fit in. I was the guy who didn't belong, you know. I was always like the one in school that the teacher would be like, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, what, you know? I was, who the hell is she looking at, you know? I was the odd man out for some reason. And, oh, that's Sasko. He's my German Shepherd. He came from Germany. They flew him over on a jet. He has a tattoo inside of his ear and everything. Yeah, he's a good doggy. He's a good man. Sasko! I'm from Chicago. You know, I hadn't really done very much acting. I tried a little bit of theater. It didn't work out very well and didn't pay my bills by any stretch of the imagination. I had gone to New York for a while and, you know, I was just banging around and I was working at a gas station. I was fixing cars and pumping a lot of gas, and I had been an orderly in a hospital. I had been a landscaper and painted garages. I had some ideas of being a policeman once upon a time, and I actually wanted to be a doctor, believe it or not, but I knew that I'd never make it through school, so that was that wasn't meant to be, so that never happened. I was doing a lot of small, low-budget movies, and I had done a lot of episodic television, and mostly playing like the Hood. I was going to change my name to Michael Hood. When I was first becoming an actor, I thought it was a cool sounding name. Michael Hood, you know. I kicked around for a long time before I had ideas of being an actor, but I didn't really know if the situation was going to ever present itself, and so it kind of just, I don't know, you know, now I'm stuck with it, so. In actuality, you know, Mr. Blonde's car wasn't really, you know, all you ever see of the car is the trunk. And in fact, it was my car. I had a '65 Cadillac. I had a yellow Coupe de Ville, which was my, you know, get-around car anyway. And it wasn't in the budget for Mr. Blonde to have a car, so they used my car for that scene when I go to the car. Anyway, I was trying to figure out, you know, what I was gonna do with this character. And I was actually, I was asleep on the floor in the production office, and the actor who plays the cop in the chair, he woke me up, and he said, Michael, I need you to do something for me as research on the character. And I was like, okay, man, you know, what's that gonna be? And he said, I wanna get in your trunk. And I said, what are you talking about, man? And he said, no, I wanna get in the trunk of your car. He said, I've never been in anyone's trunk before, and I want to know what it feels like to be in the trunk. And so I said, yeah, okay, and we went outside, and then I kind of realized, I thought to myself, well, you know, this is good research for me too, because now I got someone in my trunk, and he's dressed as a cop. Subconsciously, you know, maybe it brings something to my character. So we went outside, and he got in the trunk, and Quentin was in the parking lot, as was Lawrence Binder, the producer, and they watched us depart. And what I was going to do was just go around the block and come back. As I got underway, I realized that there was something interesting going on, the dynamics of it, and so I turned on the radio, and I just started cruising around. And I went down an alley that was a lot of potholes in it, you know, boom, 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 boom. And it got faster and faster, and I could hear Kirk back there, and he was banging on the thing, you know, get me out of here, you know, what the fuck's the matter with you, you crazy motherfucker, you know. And I had gone down this alley that was a lot longer than I anticipated. And as I got to the end of it, I had to swing back around to go back to the set. And when I went around the corner, there was a Taco Bell. So I went through. And, you know, he was, what the fuck are you doing? I got a taco, I got a Coke, and I got fries. Well, I didn't think any fries, but, you know, I don't want to make things up. And I had to turn the music up louder because I was afraid the people in Taco Bell were going to call the cops on me or something. And because at that point in time, he was making a lot of racket, you know. And there was a lot of junk in the trunk that had been flying around and banging him and stuff. Because let me tell you, the way he looked when I finally got back and opened the trunk was not at all the way he looked in the movie. But they should have used the take from when he first got out, because it was a lot more realistic, you know, because he was very sweaty and very pissed off. You know, cool is a hard word. I mean, that's a big tag, that cool thing. I don't think cool is an actable quality. I think it's one of those things that you either have it or you don't, and I think that that coolness has kind of become a little bit bastardized. And there's been a lot of guys who have made tremendous careers out of playing cool characters that they haven't brought anything to it. I grew up in the days of Robert Mitchum and Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin. And one of my favorite lines in Reservoir Dogs is when I look at Harvey and I say, I bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you? I think I'm a throwback to that time and those guys, and perhaps maybe that's why he cast me, I don't know. I'm not going to be remembered for Free Willy, put it that way. Or will I?
Methodist actor. Don't do any of that stuff. Don't have to go and live in a hut in the tundra to play an accountant. If there's a technical aspect to a character that needs to be sorted out, then I will take care of that. But the rest of it, I just look at the script and ask the director questions. I used to do that. I used to do it when I was younger, because I thought you had to. Because De Niro did it, so all these actors, you know, would go out and sort of, you know, hang out with cops and get under their feet. But I never. I just thought this is all very silly. For me, it doesn't work. You know, I sort of just go on instincts. My agent said it to me and said, have a look at this, and I just, you know, by the time I was halfway through it, I reaching for the phone, so I really want to do this. This is great stuff. And they hooked me up and had a meeting with them. I remember meeting with Quentin, and I think he was asking me to look. He said, "What do you think, Mr. Blonde or Mr. Pink?" At that time, and I wanted to play Mr. Orange because it was an acting job. Because it was not only an Englishman playing an American, but then it was the character was a cop playing a villain, so it was performance. And then he was actually the good guy, which was an interesting departure. He was, but within that world, he was the bad guy. So it was all, you know, kind of multi-layered, which I liked. I liked that character. It's deceit. I used to have to audition when you first start, you do, and if I figured out I was losing 50% of the jobs by auditioning and the other 50% I was getting, so I figured, well, screw it. I'll stop reading because it's a horrible thing that people have to go through, actors have to go through. So I just put an end to it. And after I got a few films under my belt, I thought, well, they can just go and have a look at them. If they like them, they can hire me. If they don't, then they don't. And I meet with them. I meet with directors. I love meeting directors. But but just the auditioning thing, I just don't want to have to go through that anymore. But it's true. I don't do it. I still don't do it. Brian Cox asked me to do a read-through of a film that he's trying to get off the ground, and the other day, and I said, I can't. I'll ruin it for you. So I'm really very, very bad at it. It's not for sort of, you know, egotistical actor bullshit reasons. It's actually because I'm crap at it. And so I went in there and I said, I won't read. And then we ended up, Harvey was there, and we ended up going to the deli, and Harvey was really trying to get me to read, you know. And I wouldn't. And then Harvey split, and then me and Quentin had a few beers, and then we went on to this pub that I used to go to called Coach and Horses on Sunset. And we drank some more. It was getting late, and we were smashed to bits. And I said, I'll read anything for you. So he started writing the script out on beer mats and napkins and stuff. And that didn't work, so we went and got some more beers across the road, 7-Eleven. And we went back to my apartment, and I had the script, and we read everything about 5 times, but we were so gone. So that's the only time I've read for years. Yeah, but I've worked with sort of young directors and first timers plenty of times. That never worried me. It still doesn't worry me. I sometimes think they're a damn sight better than directors who've made plenty of films. He was this complete bundle of energy, and he'd seen films that I didn't expect him to have seen, like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and stuff like that, and The Hit. I thought he was fascinating, and I thought it would be a great ride. I was really, really enthusiastic about it. When you're directing, you have to be 10 different directors. If you have 10 different actors, you have to be 10 different directors too. I think that's generally the case. And they were all very, very, very different. But he has an air about him of kind of eccentricity, but it was very much hit the ground running. I mean, you get in the morning and look over what you're going to do for the day. Have a bit of breakfast, put your costume on, and then it's high energy from then on in. Very much like any interview you'll see with Quentin, that's kind of how he is on set. Which was, by the end of it, you're exhausted, but you're thrilled. It was, He does a very bad English accent, Quentin, and he considers himself to be an authority on English accents, and it's almost as good as Dick Van Dyke's, but not quite. There's a lot of blood in that film. I think there's only nine pints in the body. I think we had about 4 gallons on the floor, or 5 gallons. Yeah, he used to have to hose you down, because you're laying on the floor and then it starts to set. So they have to scoop me off the floor and then take me outside and hose me down so I get my costume on and stuff. At the end of every day, Mike joined me. Luckily, at least I had one kind of person that joined me, because when I shoot him in the film, he ended up lining up all the blood, which was great. So they used to scrape him off the floor as well. So at least someone else had to go through it. I remember not thinking I wouldn't like Mike before I met him. He's Mr. Cool, and falling in love with him. Actually, I think it was one of the kind of enduring memories with him. I really liked him a lot.
He spent a lot of time in jail too.
I think he was arrested for impersonating an actor, wasn't he? One time. The most challenging was the dialect and trying to get that right, because it's kind of embarrassing when you're doing dialects. If you're at the beginning, when you're new, it's a bit embarrassing really. And doing an accent, amongst people who have that accent and they're checking you out. And the system that I like to use is start 3 weeks beforehand, breaking down the script just into sounds and stuff. And it was Suzanne Celeste, who is actually in the film. And she was my dialect coach. We worked 3 weeks beforehand, and then she's on set every day with the headphones and listening and making notes about what sounds are wrong for the sound people, for the editing and so on. And then through filming on set every day that I'm on set, and then in looping afterwards, in revoicing afterwards. So we just do the whole thing. But she was driving me up the wall. She drove me crazy. She's brilliant. I used her many times. She drove me crazy. So I got her the job of the woman who shoots me, and I shoot her, which was great. But no, that's how I deal with it. I work very hard at it, and you have to have a fairly good ear. That was the most challenging. The rest was fun, I have to say. I mean, there were days when it was painful and monotonous, which is what filmmaking mostly is, as far as acting side is concerned. But we did laugh a lot. We thought, we quietly, I remember looking at Harvey one day and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think it's pretty good." He said, "Shh." don't say it too loud.
Don't look Quentin.
Yeah, no, don't let anyone know, because you don't want to jinx it. But yeah, we did feel it was we were part of something good. It was a good film. It would be a great tale. Yeah.
One, two, three.
One thing about nicknames, you can never give yourself one. At the time, I suppose I would have asked Quentin where he got the name, but it wouldn't. It doesn't matter. Somebody gave it me along the way and it stuck, I don't have it. I try to avoid them. I don't have to explain it. You just gotta see the movie. That's it. I mean, the guy doesn't hide anything at all. I was totally submerged in who I was, in the character. And I was enjoying it. The guy was a nut. He was a nutbag. You have to believe you are the person or the thing or whatever the hell you're playing, and put the emotions and the feelings, or the lack of, into it. The nice guy, he's emotional about his dad, but he could give two shits about much else, I mean, his guys, his dad, money, living high on the hog, and that's it. So you didn't care about anybody else. Oh, I'd probably like him if he liked me. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't want to have dinner with the guy if I was on his shit list, That'd be a problem. I was a nutbag, He's shit in a heartbeat. Just think about him bad. He feels it. Kill you. Well, you've been selfish in your life, right? Well, just multiply that by about 1 billion. And there you go. It's Nice Coyote. Sweetheart. I was at the bottom. I needed Reservoir Dogs. And I read it and I said, this is all I need. I knew it from reading the script. It's all I need. And I'd be back up there doing movies. Quentin knew which part he wanted me to read for. And I read for it. I mean, I wanted it. So I just had fun. I just had fun with the character and the dialogue and the other guys. And there was a lot of ribbing, but I gotta be honest with you. Quentin hired a bunch of good actors. We had a good rehearsal time, and we were in such a hurry, we didn't have time to think about anything, or I didn't. I was just keeping up with the next shot. It was like real life. I mean, obviously we weren't killing each other, but it was just, really just trying to keep up. I'm kind of a slow worker anyway. And I like to ease into stuff, and it is fast. It's like razor sharp, back and forth. That was like a ping pong game. And so that was new to me, but that was a challenge, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I played a lot of slow talking, kind of more thinkers than talkers. And this was the first chance I had to play somebody who was just really quick-witted. So it was good. It was a challenge that changed me as an actor too. Eddie Bunker was a friend of mine for a long time. And Quentin, when he was casting it, I don't remember who the actor was. I'm glad, because I wouldn't mention anyway. But he was thinking about somebody, and I mentioned Eddie Bunker. I said, "Oh man, I love Straight Time. I love Runaway Train." And Eddie had wrote the screenplay for Runaway Train, and Straight Time was based on his book. It was sort of semi-autobiographical. And he's also been a witness to a lot of interesting lives. I mean, that's what a great writer does, basically. They've been around and they observe all the unbelievably interesting people there are out there. And Eddie's one of the best. So I mentioned Eddie, and Quentin goes, "Man, do you know him?" I said, "I'll get him on the phone right now." And I called Eddie, and Quentin said, "You want to be in this movie?" And Eddie said, "Yeah," and that was it. It was like that fast. They hadn't even met. He was already in. What the guy wore was inconsequential. Where he was coming from is what mattered. And that's kind of always been my way. I've never been a real guy where, well, hey, that the wardrobe's got to be just perfect or this or that. They were doing the heist, dressed the same to be, so anybody that described him obviously would say, well, there's a guy in a black suit. Well, there's 50 guys in a black suit. We don't know which one. That was the idea behind the black suits. I wasn't on the heist. And you gotta remember that movie was so low budget. It was like $900,000 we were doing the movie for. So it was like, if you brought your own stuff, great. Nike sponsors me, they give me free clothes. It's true. And Quentin liked it, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't like it was a big mental decision. You know, it was actually almost how I dressed at the time, pathetically enough. I mean, no, don't bring the Joan Rivers out here to tell me how bad it was, but except the gold. I wore a lot less gold. I pay so little attention to the camera when I act. I pay more attention to the camera now on an interview. When I act, I don't even know there's a camera there. Don't care. Makes no difference. If I'm out of focus or if out of light, it's not going to change my performance. And I don't ever pay attention. I pay attention now. Oh, my double chin's too big, or now, but not when I make movies ever. It's not that violent. It's more violent. It's not that bloody or. It's not that violent. It's violent in nature and in behavior. I mean, it's obviously it's a gangster movie. It's not a movie about. It's not a love story. So yeah, it's violent, but it's not like it's not an ultra violent gangster movie. I mean, yeah, the ear and Tim laying there in a bath of blood, you know, but. That's not, see, acting. It's everybody's in each other's faces all the time, and the pressure of the situation, building until it goes to a boil. But it's really the pressure of the film. That's the thing Quentin did, you know. It's not really that violent. You do get typecast, and they'll offer you more money to play something you've done and been successful playing than they're going to offer you to play something that you're taking a risk playing. You know what? I take what they. I mean, I love actors. I mean, more power to them. They get to choose exactly what they want to play. I don't. So you have to balance movies that, you know, you may really want to do, and say, well, I'm doing this for nothing, and then do those things. Well, okay, I've done this a million times. I'll just try to do it different and do it. That's it. Good payday's nice.
I know the story you're gonna ask me about. Go ahead. I got a feeling. He's talked about it on fucking Letterman and every place else he can. Go ahead. No, but I'd never ridden in the trunk of a car. And it was like the one thing that I was curious about. What would it be like to climb or to be driven around that way and then to climb out? Michael was taking a nap in the back of the loft where we were working. And he probably didn't tell you about the part that he was napping in a sundress when I went and woke him up. And I said, I'd like to go for a ride in the trunk of your car. And he popped right up. And he said, sure, no problem, let's go. And I climbed in the car and we went for a ride around the block and I got out. The most valuable piece I got from it was, you know, it's completely dark and you got the red and white from the tail lights in there when he stops and goes. That's the only light you have in there when you're sitting in the trunk. And I'm in that god-awful polyester cop suit. I was sweating like a pig, and his version is that I got out all weepy, and I was like, oh, Michael, I don't know if I can do this. But as far as me getting out of the car crying, I don't think that was the case. And it was a long process. I auditioned 4 times for the film. I think I know there are a lot of other guys who did the same thing, and they really, it was such an ensemble cast, and it was so important to find the match between, you know, Joe and Nice Guy Eddie, and then how does Vic fit into there, and then how do you create a brotherhood between all these guys who don't know one another? You know, and that's gonna come from good acting and the connection that's created through that. You know, it's like shooting pool with somebody that's better than you are. You shoot better pool. And I think everyone in that film was so good that everyone just constantly through the whole film is just feeding off of one another. It was fun. It was fun. It's fun when
immerse yourself that much and you commit that much to the work that you're doing on a piece. And everybody in it did that. While we were at the table working on scenes, Michael would walk around the outside of the table and recite the entire script to Raging Bull. Did you fuck my wife? Did you fuck my wife? Did you fuck my wife? You know, so that was Michael's preparation. So it'd be interesting to hear Michael's slant on his preparation. I did sensory work. I had things that I was working on. I did emotional work and stuff from my life that I pull into my work, and that I use that in my craft as an actor. Beginning to work with Michael, there was a tremendous amount of trust between us. Michael, at one point, had a hard time slapping me. At that point when he slaps me, I said, slap me. You know, I'm here with you, it's okay. You know, let go that way, and there was a connection and a trust between us that way. You don't go to the next step. You don't want to do that. You want to be in the moment and take things as they're fresh and as they're coming to you, so that, you know, your reactions and your work is real and truthful. Quentin said to me, we don't have it in dialogue here. I want you to convince this guy to not light you on fire. And I knew that Michael had just had a child. At one point during the rehearsals, I came up with that line and I said, I got a kid now. And as soon as I said that, Michael stopped in his tracks. He just stopped, he turned to me, he turned to Quentin, he said, I don't want him to say it. And Quentin said, I like that, we're gonna keep it. And I had done what Quentin wanted me to do. And it's not a cheap shot. I mean, life, art, life, it doesn't matter, you know, and it was real in the moment, and it stayed, and I think it's a very honest moment. This guy is doing everything that he can to get himself from being burned. Well, after one of my first days of shooting, I got in my car to go home, and I turned on the radio, and that was the song that was playing, and it freaked me out. It was very trippy. We did it both ways. We did it with all of us being able to hear it, and Michael dancing. There was one moment when they do that long shot of Michael then walking out to get the gas can, and Tim and I were bobbing for a moment or two to the music while Michael was out getting the gas can and then came back in. I think we were off camera, but, you know, so it was like a hoedown. There was a prosthetic. They actually had to, what's that stuff called, gaff quad or some stuff like that. It's like a glue, and they glued all my hair down on the side and then glued my hair down and then put a prosthetic piece over that, which is the wound. And then they glued an ear on top of that at one point. They had to find another kind of glue to create the tissue when the ear comes off in between that prosthetic and the ear, and then the hose being able to fit, and it was fucking endless. There was a guy just behind the chair at one point with a little bottle of blood with a tube going up my back and out underneath the prosthetic, and blood was squirting out of my ear, and that didn't make it in. And it's right that it didn't, because it's much more powerful and it's much more riveting and scary for you to be there with myself and Michael when the camera goes off to that doorway, and you're left wondering what happens, and then Michael steps back into frame with the ear in his hand. I think that's more powerful than if you saw it. There were lots of different stories about how Reservoir Dogs was maybe going to be made. I had heard one that there was a Canadian entrepreneur that was ready to give them $1 million to make the movie, but he wanted his girlfriend to play Mr. Blonde. I'd rather have Michael cut my ear off than some chick, no offense.